Hello and welcome in. It's that time again. Another Project Epoch class overview. Thank you so much to Yagsik. Your insights and knowledge made this video possible. Today, we'll be delving into the dark magics of the Warlock. Alright, grab a seat in the front row, maybe some snacks, and let's get started. Why are we in Senjin Village? Well, the trolls of Durotar have found their connection to shadowy magic, and that means troll warlocks.
Don't be shy.
Start your journey in the Valley of Trials and complete all new class quests that acclimate fledgling trolls to the world of rituals and dark magic. On to general class changes. First, a few curses have been marked as banes. You are no longer severely limited to utility cursing in raids and can now choose both one curse and one bane to have on a target. This will result in a decent PvP and PvE buff. Oh, and Curse of Elements now includes Nature as one of its categories it will empower. Drained Soul now has an Execute type effect baked in. It ticks every 2 seconds instead of 3, and the improved Drained Soul talent now has an additional damage modifier attached to it. Seed of Corruption now exists in the vanilla world, empowering Affliction Warlocks in AoE. Note, this ability has had a lot of its power shifted into the Affliction tree. The base version is noticeably weaker here. More on that in the Affliction discussion. Now fire-loving Warlocks, fear not. Rain of Fire can now critically strike, which synergizes better with Destruction's crit bonuses. This should make both Seed and Rain of Fire generally closer in AoE DPS. Firestones can now be used to enchant your weapon to grant bonus fire damage, and Spellstones can now be used to dispel all magic effects as a consumable in your bags. However, it also triggers the cooldown of Health Stones. In PvP, some Warlocks argue it's a buff, some argue it's a nerf. Also note, the Master Conjurer talent has changed to align with the new stone's effects. Epoch Warlocks will also have access to Fell Armor at level 52. That's just an overall damage buff, and the heal amp is a great bonus too. In early testing, it seems like Warlock pet damage was a much more significant part of their total output compared to TBC. This may change your philosophies about empowering or sacrificing your pet with different builds. We'll talk about that a bit later. Wrapping up this section, Warlocks rejoice because there's a few nice quality of life changes here on Epoch. Soul Shards will now stack to 3, and you can summon Soul Wells to hand out health stones to your party. Hopefully this means you'll spend a lot less time doing Warlock chores every raid night. Alright, for our first spec discussion, let's talk Affliction. The capstone talent for investing deep into Affliction is Unstable Affliction, but Epoch's version has a 34% spell scaling coefficient versus the 20% on original TBC. Of course, Seed of Corruption is a powerful new AoE ability that can be empowered further through investments in the Affliction talent tree. Here are a few talents now. A note here, Empowered Corruption will also grant 12% more bonus spell damage to Corruption than TBC. Finally, Seed of Corruption can trigger Nightfall on Epoch. In PvE, Affliction Warlocks should note your demons have a lot more throughput here, even without talent point investment. Thus, you will most likely be fighting alongside your pet more often. This will be a recurring theme in other specs as well, but let's keep focus on Affliction. On Epoch's version of Affliction, more of your damage will be coming from Drained Soul, especially due to changes to several talents to bring the spell more power. I've already covered the improved Drained Soul talent, but an important note here is that Soul Siphon now includes Drained Soul in the tooltip, but the drain amplification per affliction on the target has been dropped to 3%, with the maximum bonus dropping to 24% versus 60% on TBC. During AoE or council fight content, nothing much has changed. You will still be spamming Seed of Corruption, but maybe additional Nightfall procs will feel different? In PvP, Affliction Warlocks can utilize Unstable Affliction to catch Dispellers off guard, and it does seem a fair bit stronger on Epoch. You'll also have access to an instant Howl of Terror for CC setup and peel, but keep in mind you'll be sacrificing some survivability that you'd earn in the popular SL Warlock build. Speaking of which, let's talk about Demonology.
I'm listening.
Who dare summon me?
You probably already know this, but the capstone talent for Demonology is Summon Felguard. In PvE especially, demon pets are strong on Epoch, partially due to most class buffs now being made raid-wide. This is a major improvement to Demonology's output with their Felguard, but that's not all. The talent Demonic Empowerment has been introduced to the Demonology tree, further strengthening all of your demons. I know, the tooltip is really long. In PvP, Demonology-focused Warlocks will probably prefer the SL Warlock build, which is still very strong, but their HP recovery nerfs have hurt them a little bit. We'll see how this evolves, but from initial speculations, they still look like the ultimate PvP menace. Although, some Demonologists may stray from the tried and true to use a Felguard to hound the enemy and provide additional stuns. And now finally, Destruction. Demonic Sacrifice is now in the Destruction tree as the capstone, and the Shadow Fury talent has moved up higher. Rain of Fire can now crit, which can make you a lot more competitive with Seed Warlocks whenever Fire Warlock becomes more viable. The improved Fireball talent has had changes that could give a bit more dynamic gameplay in the Fire build. We'll need to test this more thoroughly to understand how powerful this can be in the course of an encounter. Maybe you can even find a way to grab the Demonic Empowerment talent to create some powerful synergies alongside your imp instead of sacrificing the poor little guy. Experiment for yourself. Of course, the Firestone changes give the Destruction Fire build a nice little boost as well. In PvP, Destruction can let out bursts of damage that could overwhelm the most sturdy of foes, but of course, getting those casts off will require some planning and potentially teamwork. Don't expect to sit down like a turret and let off magical devastation without getting rushed down by the enemy. Destruction is quite vulnerable for this reason, and typically when speccing deep into Destruction, you probably have to give up some survivability that you'd find in other areas of the talent trees. Of course, Shadow Fury is a unique and powerful CC tool you will have access to a bit earlier in the tree. That's gonna wrap up the spec conversations. When it comes to itemization, much hasn't really changed for Warlocks. Here is the Epoch Warlock dungeon set. The 6-piece bonus seems interesting, but the 8-piece has some odd trade-offs. I'm curious to see if any Warlocks make use of that bonus. This dungeon tier set isn't really extraordinary or anything, and I don't think I've seen many Warlocks particularly excited about it either. Anyway, we'll have to see what combinations of set items and individual pieces people have after we get our hands on the game. That's always an exciting part of such a new experience. One simple example is the Black Book. Maybe this could be updated to include Felguards in the description. Let's talk leveling. This part will be short. Warlocks are still incredibly smooth levelers. Utilizing your now stronger pet to help you fight monsters will leave you very healthy from pack to pack. Taking improved Drained Soul seems like a no-brainer with the Epoch buffs as well. You could probably level with any spec you desire, but that talent should be a must. If you want to optimize further with profession choice, you can consider tailoring or enchanting for spell power, or, alchemy is always good too. For racials, Orc is an all-around strong choice as always, but Warlocks also benefit from haste greatly. Yaxic touches on this topic.
But maybe at a certain point, like I said, when we're scaling, and we get going, Troll, life tap, we have the ability to control what our health is, kind of. So you could life tap, and get the full bonus 30% haste from the Troll racial. So Troll's always strong.
Well, that's it for the Warlock class overview. Thank you so much to Yaxic. All the information you gave me, all the insights, it made this video possible. Now let me know in the comments, will you be playing Warlock? Did you like the changes you heard about? Or what class will you be playing? Subscribe because the next class overview will be coming very soon. And of course, as always, join me on YouTube live on launch and going forward because I'll be streaming a lot of Project Epoch. Thank you so much, guys. This is Muzzy signing out.